Hi everyone, Dr. Remy from Pain Free and Fit and Posture Size. Back by popular demand, we're going to be bringing you today part 2 of the spondylolisthesis exercise, the straight-legged glute bridge. Hope you enjoy. So in the part 1 of our video series on the straight-legged glute bridge for spondylolisthesis, we talked about the importance of targeting two key muscles in the lower back, the lower fibers of the longissimus and the iliocostalis, which are uniquely situated to produce a backwards slide or backwards pull on the vertebra. And of course, in spondylolisthesis, we know that the vertebra in anterolisthesis version has slipped forward. So many of the pains that we feel with spondylolisthesis is due to a compression on the back part of the spine, because as that lower spinal bone moves forward, it becomes compressed on the back side, the joints, the disc fibers, the synovial lining, when we have too much of an arch in the lower back. And many times people with spondylolisthesis have an increased arch because they have what's known as an anterior pelvic tilt, where when they stand, the pubic bone is lower than the tailbone. And because the pelvis dips forward and tilts down, it creates an excessive arch in the lower back and has a tendency to compress or jam those facet joints, synovial linings, back portion of the disc fibers, and create pain. So the glute bridge helps us by two separate ways. Number one, it helps us to exert the back spinal muscles, the longissimus and iliocostalis, which exert a pressure back, but it also trains us to use the abdominals in a coordinated fashion to hold the pelvis in the opposite way, where it keeps the tailbone tucked under and the pubic bone moving upwards, a posterior pelvic tilt. Now, some of you had been wondering why these posterior fibers of the spinal muscles, such as the longissimus and iliocostalis, can create both a compressive, which means an arching force in the back, and a posterior translation or pulling back force. How can we separate those two together? And the secret is in using the abdominals. Any muscle function cannot be separated into two different parts. A muscle is going to contract and it's going to exert whatever its attachments are. It's going to have a mechanical effect. But in using a different muscle, such as the abdominals, to tilt the tailbone under and pull the pubic bone up, we can then limit the force of the compression, which is the arching aspect of the erector spinae, longissimus, and iliocostalis. Because without tucking the tailbone under, and especially tucking it under the higher that we go, the body's going to have a tendency to have that iliocostalis and longissimus participate in a way that's going to want to arch the back. And we're trying to negate that effect of their function. So the key with this whole thing is the higher that we go at the hips, the more tail under tension we need. Your abdominals will be contracting stronger for each incremental height that you attain throughout the exercise. You'll need a certain amount of abdominal tension here, and you're going to have to increase it harder and harder the higher that you go. If you're not doing that, you're losing the effect of the exercise and you're losing the overall benefit you're going to get in terms of pain relief with your spondylolisthesis. The other thing that's key to this exercise is if you don't know your pure body mechanical problems, your issues, such as hip hiking, if you have a tendency to raise one hip up higher than another, or to rotate your pelvis or rib cage to one side, or lean to one side, or if you have a weak multifidus muscle, or a compensatory internal oblique muscle, all those slight asymmetries in your core muscles are going to create a asymmetry when you need them the most, which is under exertion, going higher and higher in the glute bridge. So if you haven't yet looked at your posture, at your body mechanics, and found where your unique issues are, I invite you to go to the Pain Free and Fit or Posture Size websites, take a free body analysis, get that information down, because you need to hold that. The higher that you go in the glute bridge, the more we're going to be likely to use our strengths, which is if you have a strength of turning one hip up or rotating to one side, you're going to use that to try to finish the repetition, especially in the higher levels. So two keys we want to remember in this part 2 of this series is as we engage the tailbone under and create abdominal tension, we want to increase that the higher that we go, and the more we raise our hips, the more we want to emphasize correcting our unique postures. If we have a tendency to hold one hip up, let's say because that leg likes to externally rotate, we want to hold that hip down. If we have a tendency to rotate our ribs slightly to one side, we want to rotate the opposite way, the RPI, or reverse posture isometric, of our exercises. By keeping these things in mind, you're going to have a lot more effective glute bridges. It's going to help with your spondylolisthesis pain. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to help me share it with others, give me a thumbs up below. Any questions or comments, I'll do my best to get back to you. This exercise is explained in even more depth in our new series, the Fast Track Healing Exercise Program for Spondylolisthesis. You can check that out at the painfreeandfit.com website.